we all hate paying taxes. Let's talk about some breaking news. The Senate kind of surprised everybody a tad bit, and their proposal in the so-called Big Beautiful Bill is a few $1,000s more of a, not necessarily a tax cut, more of a tax deduction. So we're going to get into that today. And I've also got this is a live Q&A as well. If you're watching this now, make sure you type your question about all things Social Security, Medicare, retirement, survivor benefits, disability benefits, independently entitled, whatever you need to talk about today. Let's talk about that today. I've also got 3 questions. So if you ask a question on my website, a video question on my website in the last 24 hours, this is where you're going to get your response today. Okay, so let's get in this. I will try to get through this as quickly as possible so I can get into as many questions and make sure you all get everything you're eligible for, entitled to, work for, earned, and need in your retirement, disability, whatever. All right, so the president campaign promise, politicians and their campaign promises, right? Campaign promise is no taxes on Social Security benefits. So in the 1980s, Congress under Reagan, in order to shore up Social Security, this is where the Social Security Trust Fund comes from. The most recent iteration of the Social Security Trust Fund comes from the 1980s. And they said, hey, baby boomers in the future, that's 70 plus million Americans born between 1946 and 1964. Those people are eventually going to retire. We need to build up a trust fund so they will have that when they start retiring. And so they built up that. Part of that trust fund was also, unfortunately, a terrible idea in my book and most of my viewers here. And they decided to start taxing Social Security benefits. So basically, when you earn, throughout your life, you pay you earn money and you pay into Social Security, FICA tax, Social Security, the 6.2%, 1.45% for Medicare, you pay into it. And then when you go to take it out later, now, unfortunately, if you make over a certain threshold, then you are going to pay taxes on those Social Security benefits. But a majority of people don't. Probably about 50-60% of people don't pay taxes on Social Security right now because they don't earn enough. But so this is not in none of the campaign promise that Trump made to no taxes on Social Security wasn't going to help 50% of the people anyway, because they don't pay taxes on Social Security. This new one is going to help even less people. But I guess they had to add something in there to, placate those on retirement. So the House plan said, okay, you can get a $4,000 deduction. And the Senate plan says you can have a $6,000 deduction. So a deduction is different than a credit. A tax credit is basically saying, hey, you do your taxes and your tax person says, okay, you owe $2,000. You owe $1,000. You owe $1,000. If you get a credit, then you say, no, I don't owe $1,000 because I have $1,000 credit. I owe $1,000 in taxes, but the government gave me $1,000 credit, so therefore I'm zero. This is not that. This is a deduction. So it's basically a $6,000 deduction. It reduces your taxable income. So again, majority of people watching this, it's not going to help you at all. If you make income, let's say you make $60,000, then after everything, you make $60,000, they're going to subtract $6,000 from that. Instead of $60,000, you put down there, you made $54,000. So you get that deduction from your income. And it only lasts for a few years, from 2025 to 2028. So again, most of the people on, 50% or so of people on Social Security don't even pay taxes. So this is not going to help them at all. It is not a stimulus check. I see a lot of people in social media out there saying $6,000, $6,000. No, it's not a stimulus check. You're not going to get $6,000 after you file your taxes. So whatever your income is, $24,000, $30,000, $60,000, $100,000, whatever the case may be, you're just going to take $6,000 off the top, and whatever else you have to pay for, then you have to pay for it in terms of taxes. So if you make $100,000 and you take $6,000 off of that, then you just multiply that times whatever tax rate you normally pay. So if you take $6,000, so you pay 10%, then you're saving $600 for the year. So $600. If you pay less, then obviously it's not going to help. And then there's also, it's kind of a confusing part of it. It's the phase out rate. So if you make so the income limit is $75,000. If you make, let's say single, if you make $175,000, that means you get zero deduction because it phases out 6%. So every dollar over $675,000, if you're single, then it phases out $6 or 6%. So if you make $100, $6 phase out. So basically, if you make $175,000, then you get zero deduction. So that's the phase out there. Again, it's only for 3 years. And this is in the big, beautiful bill. And unfortunately, if it, people support it, oh, $6,000, they see the stimulus and they think it's a stimulus and they say, oh, it's $6,000. Oh, I'm definitely going to support this bill. And it turns out they get zero benefit from it. And they just might lose their Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act. There's people going to lose food stamps. So unfortunately, for those people, the most vulnerable in our society, none of this is going to help. It's an unfortunate part, but that is the reality. So vote or don't vote, or call your politicians, or don't call your politicians and tell them what you think about this so-called big, beautiful bill. All right, and I've talked about the last few days about that. There's going to be massive cuts to Medicaid. The Senate version cuts Medicaid even more. It cuts the Affordable Care Act. There's going to be millions of people that lose their health insurance, and that's also going to affect the local hospitals. And all of this is going to affect Medicare as well because of the pay-go. It's not in the bill. Medicare cuts are not in the bill because the bill causes a deficit. Automatic cuts to Medicare will begin, unfortunately. So, all right. So let's get into, I tried to keep that as quickly as possible, try not to get too much into the weeds, so we can get to as many questions as we possibly can. And as usual, this live Q&A is sponsored by Chapter Medicare. So if you need help with Medicare supplements, Medicare Advantage, make sure you give them a call. If you can't change your plan, you might be able to change your plan now, depending. There's special enrollment periods. But if you can't change your plan now, reach out to them and say, hey, put me on the schedule for October when people can change their plans for 2026. There's going to be some craziness for 2026 in terms of Medicare plans. And remember, you can change your Medicare supplement plan anytime. Okay. Been trying to get overpayment records for 3 years, SSI dragging their feet. Is there anything I can do? So if you have SSI, that's the welfare-based program. Do you mean SSI or do you mean SSA? You probably mean SSA. SSI is within the Social Security Administration. That's supplemental security income. It's a welfare-based program. So you probably mean SSA. So if you've been trying to get overpayment records, you have an overpayment. There's procedures that you go through, to address an overpayment. And I've got that on my website. If you go onto mygovexpert.com and you click on the little button there on overpayments, and it tells you about all that, request an appeal and all the rest of it. So there might be I'll answer your question now as best as possible. But for more information, you can definitely go onto my website for further information. So if you have an overpayment, there's a procedure, the request a waiver. And then if you're denied that waiver, you have it's called a personal conference. And when you have the personal conference, technically, they are supposed to provide any type of records they have before the personal conference. I've done thousands of personal conferences, personal conferences, and we always send a letter that says, hey, we've got your personal conference for this Friday at 1:00. But before that time, if you want to review all the records that we have, then, let us know and we'll schedule a time the day before or something like that, or 2 hours before, or whatever the case may be. I've had 0 people show up prior to the personal conference. So, but anyway, if they're not responding for what other reason, then you need to call your politician. Make it a congressional. A congressional is basically you contact your federal, congressperson, your senator, and say, hey, what's going on? I've been requesting this, and they will make it a congressional. It'll go up through Baltimore, the headquarters of Social Security, and it'll trickle down to your local district office. And they'll have someone, the most experienced person in that well, if that most experienced person is still there. Doge ran a lot of people, the most experienced people, out of the agency, unfortunately. So, but whoever is left, they should be able to, they should reach out to you and get that taken care of and let you get your records, because those are your records. Christine, what does it mean when there are 8 zeros in the diagnosis code of a disability update report? Usually that's just kind of a filler type stuff. So yeah, there's diagnosis codes. There could be several diagnosis codes. So there's several blocks on it. You're probably talking about was it the 831, SS 831, 832, different versions. But there's, it could be 3 or 4 or 5 different diagnosis codes in there, primary, secondary diagnosis code. So if it's like the secondary, it's just 000 just as a placeholder, so that there is no secondary diagnosis or a third diagnosis. They just put the zeros in there to prove that, they did realize there's no secondary diagnosis, but they want to put the zeros in there to prove that, okay, we just didn't miss it. We just didn't forget to fill it in with the second one. So they put the zeros in there. Sometimes, if you're requesting that after the fact, because usually they don't do that disability update report thing, but sometimes if it's a mental type issue, then those particular doctors, the psychiatrist or whatever, don't want the patient to be given that type of information. So they specifically request that Social Security, okay, so if you're going to give, information to whatever, I'm providing medical records, but do not release these to the patient because of the nature of the issue. So that sometime is why those diagnosis codes are all zeros, but could be one of those. Smash the like, thumbs up button. Thank you, Nancy. I appreciate it. Yes, that's how we get this information out there. I can just sit here for hours and talk, but it doesn't help anybody unless y'all share and subscribe and like and all that kind of good stuff. So I appreciate it. The people that we help appreciate it. Dan, my Social Security is about $900 due to worked for public utilities, but I did work my 40 quarters or whatever was needed. 53 now, just started drawing. Did get back pay for April, May, June. Okay, so you filed for disability benefits because you're 53 now. So you work for public utilities, so you work in what's called non-covered employment. That means you work for some type of state, local, federal agency that did not pay into Social Security. That's they made the calculation based on what you actually paid into it. But if you were receiving a pension from that previous to earlier this year, they would have recalculated your benefit based on the WEP, the windfall elimination provision. But they just switched that. They got rid of that on the Social Security Fairness Act. So, 63, not 53, typo. Sorry. Okay, so that changed. So that means you're not receiving disability. You're probably receiving retirement benefits. So, but I did work 40 quarters, whatever was needed. Now just started drawing. Yeah. So sounds, if you just started drawing, then, your WEP calculation isn't affected because you just started drawing after the WEP was canceled out. So everything sounds correct. Ben, hello everyone, and a huge thank you, Dr. Boyer, for all he has done and all he does. Oh, thank you, I appreciate it. Nancy, how do you get a tax credit when your only income is Social Security and do not file an income tax return? Then most times, again, this is not a credit, so this is not relevant. But that's the thing. Tax credits are for if you have to pay taxes. So usually they help the middle or higher income people out. And unfortunately, just like the attempt to get rid of taxes on Social Security, that campaign promise, that is actually going to hurt the people that you think it's going to help. So you're just like, oh, there's 50% of people out there are just, receiving Social Security benefits alone, or they're receiving Social Security and they work a little bit. So, oh, this is really going to help them. No taxes on Social Security. Those people don't pay taxes on Social Security, so it doesn't help them. It helps the middle and it helps the higher wage earners, unfortunately. So, and that's kind of the irony of it all is, those 50% that won't help at all. Oh yeah, I really want to support this person because no taxes on Social Security. I'm like, well, you don't pay taxes on Social Security because how much you receive. So yeah, sounds good though. And again, and it actually is going to hurt you because taxes on Social Security brings in about $60 billion a year to the Social Security Trust Fund. And when you take that out, that means the Social Security Trust Fund is going to be depleted sooner, and then we're going to get cuts sooner, and it's going to be more. So it actually hurts. It will actually hurt that 50% more than, yeah. On SSI, not SSA, and need to know is getting a loan is considered income. On SSI. Okay, so thank you for that qualification there. You are an SSI. So is getting a loan considered income? No, because it's debt. You have to pay it back. However, you have to be careful because if you get a loan and you put that in the bank, then that triggers an alert at the local Social Security office that you got money put in the bank. So I would just, be prepared for that, or maybe reach out to the person at your local Social Security office that you normally deal with if they're still with the agency, and say, hey, I have to get a loan to fix the car, fix the house, do whatever I, need to do. So I'm going to be putting in the bank, but it is a loan. I have to pay it back. But it's not considered income because it's a debt. I don't pay taxes. What is my economic relief? In this thing, nothing. Carlos, I need to get back to work. I turned 66 in January. Do I need to let Social Security know I want to go back to work? Do I lose my check from Social Security? So you turn 66 in January. So if your full retirement age is next year, so you're 66. So your full retirement age 67. So if your full retirement age is 67, then next year you'll be 66. So you have to keep under the annual earnings limit, which next year, this year is $23,400. So next year it might be $25,000. So as long as you're under that, you're good. If your full retirement age is 66 in 10 months, then you can make over $62,000 next year, because the year you turn your full retirement age is when the year you turn your full retirement age, your annual earnings limit goes up quite a bit. So I've got a calculator here that you can just type in. You just type in, January, let's say 5th, and not sure what the year we were born, let's say 1961. And you calculate your full retirement age. It says, okay, based if you're born in 1961, your full retirement age is 67 years old, and that will be February of 2028. So free calculator on my website there, so you can find out when your full retirement age is. So basically, before your full retirement age up till 62, you're limited to 23,400. The year you turn your full retirement age, that pretty much triples. And Social Security, if you go over that, Social Security holds back $1 for every $2 you go over. So, and I've got all that detailed explanation and a calculator on my website. It tells you what you're looking at. So you are allowed to work, but you just have to make sure you stay within your limits there. Ben, has anyone here worked with Florida Shine, and how was it? They seem like a consumer-focused group. Yeah, I'm not sure. They advise on Medicare. Yeah, no idea. Haven't heard of them. But if you need Medicare help, reach out to Chapter. Great thing about Chapter is they are highly committed to after most places out there, they enroll you and then they pretty much forget about you. With Chapter, that's why my son and I chose Chapter, is because after they enroll you, if you have a prior authorization issue, if you need to find a new doctor, if you get some type of weird mail with a bill or something like that, you contact them and they help you out. I think they figure 3 years would be long enough to see how many of us succumb to death before they make it permanent. Wow. Um, so in reality, it's just going to help the rich. So he lied to the American people. The president lied. Yeah, the big promise is the no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no taxes on Social Security. Not so much. Well, we'll see. It's still working its way, and you never know. But I, again, I don't think the no tax on Social Security. I don't think it's not even included in there anyway. Cruz reporting back to update you on filing spousal benefits from a wife. Thanks to you, we received protected filing back to January 31st. This was under the GPO and WEP 1-year back pay. Thanks. All right, Cruz. Got some back pay, protective filing. Awesome, awesome. And remember, Cruz, it wasn't me. It's all those people before you that press like and subscribe and share and stuff like that. That's how you got the channel. And you were able to watch me sit there and talk into a camera for an hour. And luckily you learned something. So awesome. And you were able to take that and make some money. I like it. And not make money, get the money you earned, right? My Social Security is $1,374, and they said I do not qualify for SSI. How can I afford to survive? Yeah, $1,374. Yeah, you definitely don't qualify for SSI. SSI supplemental security income, you get that based on either being disabled or aged, 65 and older. And the max you can get is $967. So you make over $967. On my website, you click on living on Social Security alone there, and it goes through a whole bunch of different programs. If you're receiving $1,300 and some change, hopefully you've signed up for Medicaid. Definitely signed up for Medicaid. If you sign up for Medicaid, then you are probably eligible for the Medicare savings program, and that's going to pay your $185 a month, that Part B premium. And they will also automatically sign you up for the extra help with prescription drugs to help you out with prescription drugs. And then maybe SNAP benefits, probably with that much, you may or may not qualify for, EBT SNAP type benefits. But check out some of the other ones in there. The low income energy assistance, the part of the big, beautiful bill cuts that one. The Meals on Wheels, that's cut. The senior community service program, that's going to be cut. So yeah, a lot of these programs for those kind of struggling on a monthly basis, unfortunately, are going to be cut because, hey, we have to give the super rich more money because it'll eventually trickle down. So we just keep giving them more money. We've been doing it since the 1980s, and the check is going to be at the door. It's kind of like that clearinghouse, the big check with the balloons. One day they're going to knock at your door and they're going to have a check for you. So politicians, yep, they guarantee it's going to be there for you. Is there an income limit on divorced spouse benefits when the recipient is under FRA? Yes. Yep. So for Social Security, retirement means retirement on your own record, spouse, spouse benefits, divorced spouse benefits, independently entitled divorced spouse benefits, and surviving spouse benefits are still considered kind of retirement because you get them based on, age. So because they're all retirement based, yes, there is a limit. So if you're receiving divorced spouse benefits, surviving spouse benefits, and you're under your full retirement age, then you're limited to the amount of money you can make. And again, this year's the $23,400. So anything over that, Social Security holds back $1 for every $2 you go over. So I will only believe that I will receive $6,000 when it goes into my checking account. Yeah, nobody's going to receive $6,000. That's, again, it's only a tax deduction. It only reduces $6,000 of your income. So that's the problem, is a lot of social media and stuff. They're doing I have to admit, I do a clickbait title sometimes because there's so much information out there. So there's a whole pocket of misinformation. And a lot of people watch that and they're freaking out or they're given all this misinformation. So for my YouTube video to fit in there to kind of get to the people that have watched all this information, I have to kind of do a clickbaity thing as well. So I have to play the YouTube game sometimes. I try not to do it too much. I did it when the Doge took over Social Security, and there was, everybody's benefits are going to cease, and you have to go down to the local Social Security office to get your benefits started and to continue and stuff like that. There's a lot of social media out there, so I did kind of a clickbaity one on that one a few months ago. But yeah, I'm trying to correct the record, but can't correct the record if people don't watch it. So I apologize for that one. That was about 3 months ago now. So I've tried to stop myself. Applied for Social Security retirement May 2024, first check in July, saying a 2024 overpayment kept hours under limit, saying 2,400 overpayment. No one knows about the special rule starting mid-year, have to appeal. Yeah, so you're talking about the first year you collect your Social Security benefits. Social Security can switch to what's called a monthly earnings limit rather than the yearly. So if you click on my website, again, retirement, you click on the working and benefits, and there's an entire explanation there about the annual versus monthly. So what you're talking about is, from you start your Social Security benefits in July, let's say. Social Security doesn't care what you made before you start your benefits. So you made $1 billion before you started your benefits. Social Security doesn't care. They just say, hey, starting July, when you start your benefits, are you going to stand over this year $1,950? You say, yep. And then you're good. So it doesn't care what happened. But where people get messed up on that is the Social Security employee. There's called a part of the claims path in MCS. You can tell I've done this a million times. There's a section in there. It's called non-service months screen. So they've got a little thing there where they say, hey, non-service months are from July, and they're supposed to put an XXXXXX. So probably the person that was taking your claim didn't code that particular screen correctly, and that's why you got the overpayment. So yeah, so go down there, show them, say, yeah, I didn't make over the 1950. Here's the proof. I made the $1 billion before I started benefits. After that, I made only under 1950 a month. And then they'll delete the overpayment. It's no big deal. And then say, hey, the person that took my claim, give them a little bit of education on non-service months. So they won't make that mistake again. And then they'll say, how do you know about NSM, non-service months? I had such good results from the Kalamazoo, Michigan Social Security office over the phone appointment. I talked to Leslie, very informative, solved all my problems, found the most I could get. Yes, thanks. All right. So Kalamazoo, awesome. Kalamazoo against all of the adversity, all of the cuts, all of the nightmare, where the Office of Management and Budget is trying to, terrorize government employees, which he said he wants to terrorize government employees. Even after all that, who is it? Leslie in Kalamazoo. Shout out to Leslie in Kalamazoo. You're doing a phenomenal job. Keep at it. Keep at it. You're there to take care of people and help people and make sure they get everything they earned. So good job on you. Let's see. Ongoing situation asks, is there an addition to the standard deduction? Yeah, that's more of a tax type thing. I only talk about, what's coming out right now. So any type of specific things pertaining to your particular tax situation, you need to talk to a tax person. Yeah. I stay away from taxes. I've been trying to cancel my subscription to the IRS for decades. So that makes no sense. So help those with larger incomes, but not the poor. Yep. That's pretty much, that's the big, beautiful bill right there. Does it show, does it throw a few crumbs to some other people in terms of temporary tax savings? Yes. But over 80% of the benefits in terms of taxes go to the wealthy, particularly the super wealthy. And they throw a few crumbs just to get the votes. But then it's going to cause trillions of dollars of deficits. So it's going to cut other places. So you're going to get maybe a few extra dollars in tax relief, but you're going to have to pay for more for Medicare, Medicaid, lose the Affordable Care Act. Your local hospitals are going to close down because they lose it. So yeah, So there's that. Income limit 75. Question, am 65, retired on Medicare. My ex-husband of 13 years will be 60 next month. Can I collect ex-spousal benefits? No. You have to wait until he is 62 years old. And that's called the, let me see, click on the family there. And that is called independently entitled divorced spouse benefits. It's a mouthful, but you have to collect benefits on your own record. And so you collect benefits on your own record, and then you can file for benefits on his record. Your benefit amount has to be less than half of his in order for you to collect on his benefit. But you have to start collecting on your own benefit first and then collect on his. And on my website, as you can see, I put the reference down there because a lot of people miss that. A lot of people out there are not getting that benefit because they don't know about it. And when you go to the Social Security office, unfortunately, the people at the front windows who are not, what are called Title II experts, Title II of the Social Security Act, they're generalists. They often give incorrect information. So I actually put down the Social Security policy reference down there so you can be well, I was going to say well armed, informed. That's a better way to put it in this political climate. You can be well informed when you go down there. So when you say, "Hey, I want to file for independently entitled divorced spouse benefits," and they say your ex isn't receiving benefits yet, so you can't get it, and you just plop down that policy reference, and then they'll have a sheepish look on their face, and they'll disappear in the back and they'll come back and say, "Oh," hopefully they come back and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I made a mistake." In the old days, people used to say that. "I'm sorry, I made a mistake. Let's fix that." So, all right, I've got 3 people that submitted video questions. So if you're interested in a video question, you just click on, I'm gonna go on the website, click on the little thing in the bottom left there, and it pops up a thing where you can record a video and ask me a question. So I've got 3 of those. If you asked a question the last 24 hours, here's the answer.
Okay, Dr. Ed, first of all, I'd like to thank you for your channel and your expertise. And my name is Jim. I'm going to be 65 on the 1st of July. And I guess I got a couple more years of disability before it goes over to regular retirement. But I've never have received a review for my disability, never. And I've been on disability since 2000, February 2012. Yeah, February 2012. And I guess, I've had so many surgeries and I've had amputations on my feet, on my toes. I guess they just assume I'm not going to be able to work, which I can't. And I can't work over here in the Philippines anyways, because you can't, as a regular schmo over here, living here, but nor own property. Anyways, I want to know if they happen to, I've changed my address with Social Security, so I assume if they're going to give me a review, they will mail it to me. I just hope they'll get here in time before that expires. I have plenty of documentation to prove that I'm still disabled. I have a hole in my foot right now that's, huge. Anyways, another thing is, what are they taking out of my check for Medicare? I'm in between whether to keep the Medicare or get rid of it. I'd be screwed if I have to go back to the States for something. So I'm open for suggestions. And
okay, anytime we get a call or anything from the Philippines, there's always a rooster in the background. Anyway, so if you're 65 years old on disability and you haven't received a CDR, then awesome. When you file for disability, they give you kind of a rotation that, you're going to get a CDR, continuing disability review every year, or 3 years, or 5 years, or 7 years, or, sometimes never. So yeah, it's great. So if you haven't had one, you haven't had one. So, and it's also budget related. So maybe you were due for a CDR last year, but your local Social Security office, whichever one does, whatever your hometown was, maybe they didn't have a budget for it or whatever. So they just didn't do it. So I wouldn't worry about that. Don't worry about it until you get it. 2 more years, you won't get them anymore because you're going to switch over to regular retirement benefits. In terms of overseas, all right, I get that question a lot. And so I've got a section on my website, Living Overseas, and about Medicare. Okay, so for Part A of Medicare at zero premium, 99.99% of people don't pay a monthly premium for Part A. So you're signed up for that. You're good. You're talking about Part B, whether you want to sign up or you want to continue paying for Part B, the $185. So if you're paying that, and if something happens and you have to go back to the United States, you get homesick or sick, or the political situation in your particular country, goes south, and you have to go back to the United States, then if you don't have Part B, then you're going to have to wait until the general enrollment period, January, February, March, and sign up at that time. And you're going to be charged a 10% penalty for the rest of your life for every 12 months you didn't have Part B. So people ask me all the time about, I'm overseas. Do I have to pay for Part B? Well, as we used to say in the Marine Corps, you don't have to do anything in life, but the repercussions are push-ups and runs and anyway, force marches and the brig and all the rest of it. But anyway, in terms of Medicare, if you cancel your Part B and you never go back to the United States, then no issues. You're not going to be penalized or anything. But if you cancel Part B and then something happens and you have to go back, then again, you can't re-sign up for Part B until January, February, March. And invariably, was it Murphy's Law that you'll get sick and you'll have to go back to the United States in July, and you won't have Part B. You'll have Part A, and you'll say, well, if I have to go to the hospital, that's the hospital. Part A covers the hospital. But if a doctor walks into the hospital and does something, a surgery, whatever, that's Part B. So the hospital charges are Part A. What the doctor does, the anesthesiologist and all that, that's Part B. If you don't have it, then that's all out of your pocket. So you just need to make sure, whatever is right for you. If you're never going back to the United States, then, why pay the $185? But what do they say? Life is what happens while we're making other plans. So, all right, next question here.
Hi, Dr. Ed. My name is Laura. I have a question. I'm going to read through my notes here. I'm 62 years old. I was born 10/26 of 1962. I'll be turning to 63 in October. My ex is deceased about 25 days ago. We were married for over 15 plus years. I started receiving my own Social Security last year, when I turned 62. That's about 8 months ago. I never remarried, but he did. I made way less income than he did, probably two-thirds less. Um, can I receive 100% if I file under him as an ex-spouse survivor? Do I need proof of his death certificate? My marriage certificate and divorce certificate, I do not have. I don't know. Do I have to acquire that? And can I apply online through Social Security or over the phone, or do I have to make an appointment and go in? Do I cancel my own Social Security benefits? And if so, is that feasible since I made way less than him and put it on hold? And if I did, I don't know how I would be able to pay that back. Would they be able to take it out of my survivors? And if so, is it even beneficial to do so? Or do I just apply under my ex's Social Security since it doesn't even matter? Can you please help me with that question? I appreciate it.
All
Thank
right.
you. I am lost for words. I don't know where to go, where to start, and how do I go about applying?
Okay. All right. Lots of questions. Okay. So thank you for the question. All right. So you can withdraw your application, your current retirement application, because you've filed within the last 12 months. You withdraw the application, but it's a withdrawal. That means that it never happened. So you have to pay all that money back. But if you said he made a lot more, and whether he got remarried or anything, that's zero relevance. You were married to him for 10 years or longer, so you're entitled to benefits on his record, surviving spouse benefits. So if your benefits are never going to be higher than his, then don't even worry about paying that money back. You just go ahead and file for survivor benefits. And then, because usually what sometimes the strategy people do is they file for survivor benefits, don't touch their own, because eventually their own benefits at 67 or 70 become more. So you need to check that out. Maybe, you're looking, my benefits on my own record at 67 are still going to be below. But remember, benefits on your own record continue to increase until the month you're at 70, another 24% increase. So one day, maybe your benefits on your own record might be more. But if they're not, then forget about the withdrawal and all that kind of stuff. Just go ahead and file for surviving spouse benefits on his record. Will you get 100%? No, because you're going to be filing, if you go ahead and file now, your benefits are going to be reduced because you're filing before your full retirement age. But it also depends. Surviving spouse benefits calculations are a little bit wonky. It also depends when your ex started, if they started their Social Security benefits. And I've got my website there gives you potential survivor benefits and all that little calculator there you can play around with. But anyway, I would play around with your options and do it as soon as possible, because if your ex took his benefits early, 62, 63, then your benefits or surviving spouse benefits might not ever increase past the age of 62 and a half, because there's this weird calculations called the rib limb widow's limitation that is in effect. So what I would do to play around with the numbers, I would call Social Security. You cannot do a surviving spouse claim online. You have to call, schedule an appointment, a phone appointment or in-office appointment, whichever one. Call and say, hey, I want to file for surviving spouse benefits. And then you're probably going to need the marriage certificate and divorce decree, but do not wait to get those. Don't waste your time waiting. Schedule the appointment and then start looking for them after you schedule the appointment, because you don't want to lose months of pay. So schedule your appointment. And then when you have your appointment, say, hey, okay, I want to file for surviving spouse benefits. And number one, will my benefits on my own record ever be more? 67, 70, will they ever be more? And if they say, no, they'll never be more than surviving spouse, then don't worry about withdrawing and paying it back. If they say, yeah, maybe at 68 years old, your benefit's going to be more, then you might want to think about, paying those benefits back and withdrawing the application. So yeah. So it really depends on those calculations. But in terms of surviving spouse benefits, whether you want to take it now or take it later, then ask the claim specialist and say, okay, if I start the surviving spouse benefits this month, how much is it going to be? If I wait a year, how much is it going to be? And then you'll know whether your ex filed early or something. You'll know whether that widow's limitation takes effect. So if your benefits increase next year or the year after, that means your benefits will continue to increase. So play around with those numbers. Find out how much your benefits are going to increase over the years. Find out whether it's best to go ahead and file for surviving spouse now or later. Wait for them to increase. But as anything with Social Security, anybody, when should you file? When should you start your retirement benefits or surviving benefits? It's, if you need the money now, then that's a slam dunk. You need the money now. You need the money now. If you wait till next year, sure, it's another, $40 a month, but you need those checks now, then you need those checks now. And that's, it's a pretty easy decision. So I think I got all your questions. All right. One last one, and I'll get back to live answering your questions.
Hello, Dr. Weir. This is Ben from Indiana, Florida. I had 3 points I wanted to bring up, maybe 4. Number one is thank you. Thank you for your service in the Marines. Thank you for your service in Social Security office, and also very much thank you for what you're doing here on YouTube. We do appreciate it. I've benefited from it greatly. Number 2, can I have my, benefit increased from age 67 to 70 by working extra jobs that contribute to Social Security? I think that's explanatory. If not, you can hopefully go into it. And number three, had I just applied, but I also sent in my form 521. I think that's the form that is called. Last Friday the 13th, and I'm still waiting on an update. I just checked my account today. It's still not showing an update. I haven't watched the entire broadcast of last night, which was the 19th of June, about the potential 19% drop. But if I heard you correctly, the 8% times 3 years that I wait, that should still be more. But I'll wait and listen to your opinion on it. And thank you very much again for everything you do.
All right. Thank you for the question from Florida there. Okay, so yes, there's a few ways your benefits can increase after you start receiving Social Security benefits after your full retirement age. Anytime you work and you pay into Social Security, and that's one of your high 35 years of earnings, whether you're 67, 77, 87, 97, doesn't matter. If you continue to work and that's one of your high 35 years, as soon as Social Security gets that information from the IRS or your employer or wherever, they will look at it and say, hey, he made, $1 billion last year. That's definitely one of his high 35 years, maybe. And they recalculate. That's 100% automatic. So 100% automatic. If you wait to collect benefits after your full retirement age, or you suspend your benefits before you hit your full retirement age, called that voluntary delayed retirement credits, then every year you wait to collect your Social Security benefits after your full retirement age, it increases 8% every year. So if your full retirement age is 67 and you don't start collecting your benefits until 70, then you get a 24% increase. So, and so it's called delayed retirement credits. And what I was talking about yesterday was the new Social Security trustees report came out, and they said, yeah, if we don't do something, then by 2034, all of us are going to get a 19% cut. Actually, they said it was 23% just for regular retirement and survivor benefits, but the disability trust fund is doing pretty well. So everybody assumes that they're just going to bring those two trust funds together. And then when they bring that money together, then it'll be a 19% reduction. So that's why I used the 19% reduction number. But sometimes on the internet, you'll see 23%, but that's because, they separate it. But anyway, okay. All right, let's get into about 10 minutes more questions. Let me see if I can find people that I've never seen here before. Get some new questions. Social Security rules under special circumstances allows sponsored seniors over 65 to bypass the 5-year rule if they are indigent without income. I was told in the past by foreigners this was a known scam. Bypass the 5-year rule. You're maybe talking the 5-year rule. Not sure what you're talking about. The 5-year rule. There's a 5-year rule for disability. Date last insured. You had to work 5 out of the last 10 years. So I don't think that's what you're talking about. Maybe you're talking about people that come over to the country and they have to live in the country. So there's we used to have this all the time. Well, not all the time, a few times a year, but anyway, people that would, sons and daughters would sponsor their parents to come over to the United States, and that's 100% legal. But then they come into Social Security and want to file for SSI and stuff like that. But when they sponsored those parents, then it was, when you sponsored your parent, you testified, you promised the government, us, the American people, that you would take care of your parents for at least 5 years. So, bye. So they said, oh yeah, I did, didn't I? Okay, all right. So, but if something happens to those kids or something like that, it doesn't happen very often. Like I said, that only, doesn't happen very often. So, I mean, if you want to, I see where you're going there. You're trying to, protect Social Security benefits so it doesn't get a cut in the future. That type of situation is just so minuscule. It might add 30 seconds onto the trust fund. If you want to add decades, smash the cap. So, I am disabled and was married 24 years before divorce. Now remarried after 50. Can I get my first dead husband survivor benefits or SSI at 65? No, because you are now currently married. So the only time you can get survivor benefits and be married is if you married after the age of 60. So Ed, you're so much better informed. The Wall Street Journal just talked about the trust fund being cut. I laughed out loud, said you should talk to Dr. Ed. He's been all over this since last fall. Yeah. Yeah. We've known about this for 30 years. And, well, I mean, since, the 80s when they attempted, they did a pretty good job. I completely disagree with taxes on Social Security. But they didn't forecast. Politicians often say, well, the reason the Social Security Trust Fund is because we're not having enough babies, and the trust fund is stolen, all this other kind of BS. My video tomorrow is going to be about internet myths or on Social Security, so I'm going to do one on myths tomorrow. But yeah, the big reason is the money that we used to make and pay into FICA, all that money is going to the top now, and they don't pay FICA after. They're exempt from FICA after they make $176,100. So that's the issue. All right, let's see. What is the Senate proposing for Medicare? I heard it was worse than cuts proposed by the House. Thank you. For Medicare, there's nothing in either bill necessarily that cuts Medicare. Medicaid, yes, over what is an extra 170, $80 billion cut to Medicaid. I guess the Senate decided, poor people don't have it hard enough, so they decided to cut more. But in terms of Medicare, there's nothing really in there that cuts Medicare because they don't need to put it in there. And that's a really politically sensitive topic, Social Security as well. So they don't really need to do anything to cut Medicare. They don't really need to do anything to cut Social Security. They just don't do anything. And that's how they do it, by not doing anything. Because Social Security is going to run out. The Social Security Trust Fund is already going to be running out, and they're waiting for that massive crisis for people to get their first checks that say, sorry, you were making $2,000 last month, but here's the 20% cut, 19% cut or whatever. And then they can say, well, look, Social Security, we beat it into submission and we broke it. And now that we broke it, let's give it to our buddies on Wall Street. Medicare, they don't have to do anything because the big, beautiful bill, I hate calling it that, but that's what everybody knows it as. The big, beautiful bill creates a deficit. And there's the Council of Economic Advisors, 3 people that the president chose that says, no, it doesn't. But everybody else says it does cause a deficit. And because it causes a deficit, there is an act called the Pay-Go Act that says if a law causes a deficit, then automatic cuts have to happen. And Social Security is exempt from those automatic cuts. The Veterans Administration is cut from those automatic cuts, but Medicare is not. So the first place they're going to go is Medicare. And the guy who picks what gets cut is Russell Voigt, a Project 2025 guy, who is the man in charge of the Office of Management and Budget in the White House. He's the guy that decides what gets cut. And you know exactly where he's going. I'm 59, just lost my husband. Oh, so sorry. My income is low, want to hold out for rib limb at 62 and 8 months. Is it possible to claim on my own record at 60 or 62 and then switch to the widow's rib limb at the full potential? Wow. So your husband was receiving benefits early and sounds like you've well informed. That's awesome. Perfect. You are too awesome. You cannot file for benefits on your own record at 60. You have to wait till 62 to get benefits on your own record. So I guess in your particular case, if you already know the calculations, you go ahead and get benefits on your own record at 62. That is, if your benefits are never going to be higher, even up to 70, then go ahead and get your benefits for those 8 months and then switch over to survivor benefits. And then stay on survivor benefits forever. So unless the only exception is if you're disabled. If you're disabled, you can file for benefits now. It's called disabled widows benefits between the age of 50 and 59. And then you wouldn't get that rib limb because you're disabled widow's benefits. So, but if you're not, then yes. Thanks for this platform to educate also. What a great sense of humor. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I always have a kind of a dark old Marine Corps gallows humorous sense of humor. Some people don't get my sense of humor, but so most of it's my wife and stuff. Senator Swalwell had a town meeting today. He went before a Republican area. He's now a Democrat. It was a great meeting, and he said, we can't be wimps. We need to go after the Trump administration. Yeah, he mentioned three things. I was watching that. He mentioned three things that, the campaign promises. Promise prices would be lower, not lower. Promise he'd end all wars immediately. Yeah, not so much. Promise he'd protect Social Security and Medicare. Yeah, not so much. And campaign promises and politicians. Yeah. Let's see. Peter, I am concerned about the difficulty about getting all my records together in the required format in order to prove my citizenship so I can continue receiving Medicare. Yeah, you don't, if you're a legal resident in this country, you have legal residency and you paid into Medicare, then you don't necessarily have to have citizenship. As long as you're, in this country legally, green card or whatever the case may be, then you are good. But if you lost your green card expired, because you became a citizen and you didn't obviously, because you became a citizen, U.S. citizen, then, yeah, you'll need to get your proof of citizenship. But continue Medicare often did they reach out to you and say you needed to, show you became naturalized? So I would definitely check that out. So that's why in my office and many offices throughout the country, what we used to do when we were able to do it is we used to go down to naturalization ceremonies. So Social Security, one or two Social Security employees used to take a bunch of SS5 applications for the Social Security card, and we used to go down to naturalization ceremonies, and people raised their right hand. I become defend the Constitution, yada yada, and did it several times in the Marine Corps. And you have to do it. Raise your right hand when you join the Social Security Administration too as a federal employee. But once they do that, we had a little table on the outside that says, okay, you've got your Social Security number. You've been working in this country several years, but we need to update your Social Security card internally to show that you're now a U.S. citizen. So you didn't do that. But yeah, a lot of people don't do that. And when they file for retirement or Medicare, they have to show their legal presence in the United States at that time. So you did, it sounds like, but you've changed your status. So, and those certificate of naturalizations, oh my gosh, what are they built? Where they print those on pure gold? They're like several $100s to get a certificate of naturalization or replacement. They're crazy expensive. I just received Social Security letters saying next month, instead of getting a separate check on my earnings and a separate check based on my widow's benefits, as of next month, I'll get only one check. New procedure. Yeah, so this is called kind of dual simultaneous entitlement. A lot of people miss that. And they are receiving essentially two checks. They're receiving benefits on their own record, and then the difference between the two. So you've always been receiving kind of two checks, but yeah, for whatever reason, I don't know if this is another scam or something like that, but if it's an official Social Security letter, then yeah, your total benefit amount is going to be the same, it sounds like. So whatever thing in your particular situation, they're just letting you know that, maybe you were receiving benefits on your own record in one day and a survivor benefit on another day because of an early filings thing or something. So yeah. But I probably wouldn't worry about it. But you can call them up and, to get more clarification on why they're doing that. Ben, thanks, Dr. Ware. I think with ongoing help chapter is the way to go for Medicare help. Oh, thank you. Yes, I agree. They help people throughout the country. They look at all the plans in your area and they, give you your options. Always, anytime you talk to anybody about Medicare, always start with, okay, tell me about Medicare supplements. What's a plan N? What's a plan G? Because unfortunately, Chapter doesn't do this, but a lot of other agents out there, they make more money enrolling you in a Medicare Advantage plan. And if that's best for you, then beautiful. Because everybody makes more money when you get a Medicare Advantage plan, particularly the health insurance company. That's why the health insurance companies pay the agents more for, enrolling you in a Medicare Advantage, because they make tons more money. You're like, wait a second, they make more money on a zero premium plan rather than a Medicare supplement, which might cost $100. Yeah, it's crazy. The whole industry is just crazy. Because that zero premium plan, you're like, wow, zero, free. It's not free because you paid for it. All those decades you paid into Social Security, into Medicare, the Medicare FICA tax, when you sign up for a Medicare Advantage, then the CEO of that company goes down to Washington and says, hey, we just signed up Ben. Give us Ben's money. And the government gives the company you chose money every year to take care of your Medicare issues. So Chapter, they signed you up. Awesome. Found you the best plan. Awesome. If you have any issues in the future, make sure you reach out to them. But the most important thing now going forward is, remember, whatever company you signed up for, they have your money. They are getting your money every year. So, go get it. If they're giving you some type of gym membership, go. If they're giving you dental, vision, or hearing, use it if you need it. If you need to go do some tests, some preventive maintenance, we should call it, go. Yes, that is your money. Don't think, oh, this company is so awesome, they're giving me this, that, and the other. No, they're not giving you anything. You're getting it back. That's your money. So yes, show me the money. Yes, that's your money. Go get it. All right. As usual, I've got thousands of questions, but we've run out of time. So I am going to be back again tomorrow, and I'll do some 10 myths, or probably not 10. I'll probably do like 5 different myths on Social Security that are going out there. But y'all have a great night, and please, 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 please take care of each other. Y'all take care.